Well, it seems a long time ago now, doesn't it? But the 3-hour Silverstone 500, the third round of the championship, got underway with the Team ABBA Racing Mercedes on pole position after a cancelled qualifying session, and Mercedes were all at the front of the field. Round Copse corner they headed. Immediately, John Ferguson was in trouble, dropping back behind James Cottingham and Ian Logie. Those two cars would have very differing fortunes over the next 3 hours. There was early drama down at the club sequence of corners as Nick Jones was tapped into a spin in his Team Parker Porsche, and after an early safety car, the action in the traffic on the restart was second to none, with drivers fighting for every inch of real estate. The 84 McLaren unfortunately grenaded itself up at the loop. They were out of the race with damage to the right front corner, whilst the Team ABBA car found itself up and down the order throughout the race. Team Brit had a spin down at Magnussen Beckett, and upon the rejoin, Aaron Morgan was collected heavily by one of the GT3 McLarens. That did a lot of damage to both cars. Both drivers checked over at the medical centre, but ultimately it was a lengthy safety car period that gave us a sprint to the finish, with the pro drivers back on board in GT3 fighting it out at the front. A penalty for the race-leading Ginetta in GT4 meant that it was the Optimum Motorsport number 90 McLaren that found its way into the race lead and ultimately race victory, whilst Dan Harper chased down Sandy Mitchell for the overall race win, finally making a brilliant move through Brooklands and Luffield. 3 or 4 corners side by side between the two of them saw the BMW out in front by the time they got to Copse Corner. Sandy Mitchell just could not quite live with the straight line speed of the Century car, but he did stick with them until the very final lap of the race. Darren Leung was celebrating the move. He would celebrate even more so when the car crossed the line to claim the checkered flag at the end of 3 hours of racing here at Silverstone. Century Motorsport make it 3 different winners from the first 3 rounds of the championship. So that was the Silverstone 500, and now drivers out onto the podium. We're going to start, I believe, with our overall GT3 podium finishers, and so the third placed car was the Rob Belmont Radcliffe machine there, Sandy Mitchell. It's not quite a third Silverstone 500 victory for him, but still a really, really impressive result that for the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini that really was never a contender until that final stint of the race. And Sandy Mitchell and Sean Balfe, second place for them. But ultimately, the race victory will go the way of Century Motorsport. Darren Leung and Dan Harper, in his first season of racing with us here in British GT, win the Crown Jewel event. It may be the third round of the championship, but it's certainly more than just another race. To have the opportunity to win the Silverstone 500 is something that all of the drivers on the grid will have been hoping for. Dan Harper and Darren Leung raised the race winners trophy. There's a bigger trophy to